it's funny. They have a checklist of all the things to give them access to, but rarely do they have a checklist of all the things to take away. It's like, where's your offboarding checklist for your employee? What? It should probably match your onboarding.
Yeah, they should be similar.
You're listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, where HIPAA and humor collide to make learning fun. Your delightful hosts are Donna Grindle and David Sims. Relax, HIPAA help is on the way.
Welcome to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast. My name is David Sims with HIPAA for MSPs and Security First IT, and joining me, as always, is Donna Grindle of Cardin. Hello, Donna.
Hello, David.
I'm not going to get too much into what you've been up to.
Yeah, let's not. 'Cause there's a lot.
Yeah,
going on in my life right now.
Yeah, we don't have the time, nor do we want to violate people's privacy.
That's right.
But let's just say you've been busy with a lot of stuff, medical issues and other things.
Family things.
Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into where you're going to be coming up here in 2019. Almost already here.
Can you believe it?
I know.
I can't believe we've been doing this every freaking Friday for so long. Here we are in another year together coming in. So I will be January 23rd in Macon, Georgia, the new chapter Wow, this is going to be a good day. Middle Georgia Medical Group Management, which we were just talking about how hard that is to say. I'm going to be talking with them January 23rd. And I'm going to be doing some really cool stuff with the Society of OMS Administrators National Conference in Savannah, Georgia. Looking forward to that. We're also doing something, we don't know what, probably just the expo based on what we're doing right now with Georgia MGMA's annual conference in Hilton Head.
Cool.
At the end of April. So got things going on.
Nice. And then HIPAA Boot Camp.
That's right. Boot Camp.
Yep. So we have a couple of sessions already planned out. The first one's going to be March. So March 20, 21, 22, our new 3-day boot camp will be coming up. If you happen to miss that one or not be able to do it, we have another one coming up May, and that's May 15, 16, and 17. Both of these will be in Georgia, where we've had the rest of those. So if you want more information on that, go to thehipaabootcamp.com or helpmewithhipaa.com/bootcamp, and all the information is there. I will tell you, you better get in early because we have been selling out on these boot camps. So if you're interested in either one of those, you can even go ahead and book May already. So get it in the budget, make it happen.
There you go. And I've already been asked, are you having a third one?
How many do we have to plan to get you there?
I know, really. So we just want to plan for the third one as well. And we have decided that we are going to test the waters and see if we have interest in us headed out to the West Coast. If you are willing to join us, say, I don't know, in Vegas maybe, and do a boot camp, if we can get enough people showing interest, we may do that out there in the fall. But we need to get we need to know it would really happen and it wouldn't just be us partying in Vegas, because that wouldn't be a good business expense.
And you do have to show up. You can't just tell the practice you're going to Vegas for a conference and not show up.
You can't tell the bosses I'm going.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, you are the boss, and then there you go.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that's the boot camp. So, have at it.
Yeah. Brings us to our topic for today, which is kind of fitting considering it's raining outside today as we record. But we're going to be talking about it's raining settlements. Yeah. So good
We're
thing.
the weather girls, and we've got news for you.
So our OCR has continued to hand out settlements at the close of this year. So two of them's not maybe exactly considered raining, but considering how often they do these, I mean it's pretty good.
Yeah, that they did them, within a week of each other. We don't usually see that occur.
Right.
I mean, the 4th, the 11th, you got to wonder, are we going to get one next week,
Mm-hmm.
So, because this is the 14th, just so you know. but you're not listening to it on the 14th.
Right. And these are smaller ones, which it's great because, we always hear the bigger ones. And then, of course, the smaller practices are like, well, it's not going to happen to me. It only happens to the big guys. So I like covering these. I like digging down into what happened because a lot of times it's like, you've got to be kidding me. Just when you think you've heard it all, and trust me, one today is that. Just when you think you've heard it all, you hear something go, that's crazy.
Yeah, how did that even happen?
Yeah. And then, of course, we get to hear from Director Severino and how he eloquently puts things.
That's right. So the first one is a Florida case. We hear a lot from Florida. I don't know why. But this one came out December 4th. And OCR announced this settlement with Advanced Care Hospitalist.
Mm-hmm.
And they agreed to pay $500,000 along with a 2-year corrective action plan. And I'll read the Severino quote, and then David is now going to give us his interpretation of each of the Severino concepts. This case is especially troubling because the practice allowed the names and social security numbers of thousands of its patients to be exposed on the internet after it failed to follow basic security requirements under HIPAA.
So my interpretation of that is you had one job.
Yeah. You got to follow those folks on Twitter to really get that one. But
yeah,
you had one job and you couldn't get that right.
Couldn't even do the basics. That's troubling. It's troubling when, it's, when somebody's really trying and something happens, you kind of feel, somewhat like, look, you did the best you can do, or you did take some measures. But when you failed to follow the basic security requirements under HIPAA, which means you failed to follow the basic security requirements under anything,
right?
You didn't do anything to protect the data.
Yeah. So what had happened was so they're the hospitalists. So that means they're like internal med doctors, and they contract their services into hospitals and nursing homes to be like the doctor on rounds, if you will, while your primary care talks to them and all of this kind of, so the other doctors aren't at the hospital all the time.
Right. And if you're not driving, you may want to get a piece of paper out and chart this because it's kind of crazy to follow.
It took me 2 tries to get it down right because the first time I read it, I was like, I'm going to have to come back to that when I have more time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah. So they have to bill their services just like everybody else in healthcare. And just like a lot of people, they hired somebody to do their services. They hired what they thought was a company, Doctors First Choice Billing, to do their billing.
Mm-hmm.
One would say, hey, why is that a problem? Well, here's the rub with that. No one ever questioned this first choice billing. No one ever got a business associate agreement in place.
Mm-hmm.
And if you'd just done those 2 steps, this would have never happened. But now we've got thousands of people that are exposed on the internet publicly because those 2 simple steps, making sure you have a BAA and ask a few questions.
Right.
Okay. Here's the thing. The person they hired, and I came up with the name. I thought it was good. Sam T. Scammer.
I like it.
Sam the Scammer. His middle name is The. So here's the thing. Sam, again, this is where it gets kind of confusing because we don't know all the details, but he wasn't apparently actually working for Doctors First Choice Billing, but he was using their system.
What?
I don't know. I don't know because he's using the First Choice name and their system, doing the billing work on the side, and it's Doctors First Choice has no idea that this billing work is taking place.
Okay.
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, what? How are you? They are being scammed and being reckless. So from November 2011 to June 2012, this went on. So we don't know if somebody just got smart enough and said, let's stop, or Sam, the scammer, disappeared. We don't know. It's not clear why they stopped working with Sam in June of 2012.
Maybe he was pocketing the money.
Who knows? We don't know those details. But here's where it gets worse. So for whatever reason, they're no longer working with Sam June of 2012.
Mm-hmm.
In February 2014, 2 years later, one of the hospitals that they work with there locally notified them that their patient information was viewable on the First Choice website publicly. Okay. So
how did the information even get there?
Exactly. Well, First Choice is like, where did that come from? Because that, they're not protecting it because they didn't know.
It came from Sam, the part-time I work from home guy.
Yeah. Sam T. Scammer. So Sam, I don't know. We don't hear any more about Sam in here. So we don't know if he vamoosed or what. But they do their investigation and they say at least 400 affected individuals.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And they said, remove our stuff, First Choice. And First Choice is like, we didn't even know it was there. We're not responsible for this. And they filed a breach report on April 11th. So exactly the 60 days are pretty close. So first of all, they've done it. 2 years later, somebody else notices it. And then they do exactly 60 days and say it's 400 and the problem's solved. Now note, that's under 500.
That's convenient.
Conveniently under 500. But then they follow an amended supplemental breach report is what they call them. And they are very possible and things that you could do. We recommend them in certain cases, not this one, because then they said, well, when we said 400, we were a little off. There's 8,855 patients could have been affected. 8,855. Yeah, we're a little off. So,
do we still have to notify the media now?
Yeah, right. So then they had to do, a whole lot of other stuff, which then OCR says, we'll be seeing you next week. You'll be hearing from us. Just letting you know we're opening an investigation. So that happened somewhere there in the 2014, 2015 timeframe. This investigation started, which is another indication that how long these things last. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But here were the violations that they accounted for. And I would just like to say, not only is it raining settlements, but in this one, it was raining violations. And there were a bunch. So you've got, of course, the no BAA in place for what they thought was First Choice, which was really Sam T. Scammer. They had no policy or procedure that required them to have BAAs in place, which is probably means they're missing a bunch of them because they never required them. And, of course, because of that, then they've done an improper disclosure. So you've got that one in there. They've never done a risk analysis until March 2014. Now, they were in business back when HIPAA came into play, but in March 2014, they finally did their first risk analysis.
Mm.
And it conveniently, after they were notified in February 2014, they decided to do it. They didn't have security measures in place because they never did a risk analysis until April 1st, 2014. Never had any written policies and procedures until April 1st, 2014. I wonder why all this stuff happened in March and April. Because, wow.
Yeah.
They got to be lucky that, they must have dug into their finances and stuff and said, look, we think all you can pay is $500,000 and still stay in business.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah. Then they're on a 2-year cap, which basically says you are going to complete a proper compliance program that we are going to confirm and monitor for 2 years.
And this doesn't even get into the first choice billing people and all their failures.
Yeah, well, the first choice billing people, their problem is how'd that guy, Sam, get to do whatever he was doing. We don't even know. We're not privy to what's going on with them at this time. But you have to assume that all of that stuff they did in March and April, because we both know, if suddenly you're able to do from February, what was it, February 11th, and suddenly by March 4th, you've done a risk analysis.
And you hadn't done one in 4 years.
And you hadn't done one ever before, you know it's not complete and thorough.
No.
It's impossible because you know that didn't start happening until after the panic settled down from February 11th, you know. And it was probably, is it divisible by 4? No. So it wasn't even a leap year. They didn't get an extra day in there. So you know it was crap what they did.
If they can do a good one that fast, you might need to talk to them about hiring them.
I know, really? Yeah. You know, people that can do them that fast. I'm sure there are people that can do them that fast. They just run a few programs and they say, here you go.
Yeah, I know people like that.
And in the way that they had written policies and procedures by April 1st, come on now. You know, it was a template. And we don't have to talk about what templates mean to us, do we?
Apparently we do. Even though we have talked about
these people don't listen to us anyway. Well, maybe they do now. I hope they do now. I hope they've gotten their stuff in line because I feel bad for all those patients because as hospitalists, they don't get a choice to see you. You know?
Right.
They don't say, hey, I want to trust this hospitalist. That hospitalist is on duty and they see them.
Right.
And so I am now in your system, whether I want to be or not. I wanted to, I may have chosen the hospital. I've chosen my physicians, but I didn't choose you. The same thing for other like radiologists who read in the hospitals and stuff. And people don't realize how much that goes on because they don't realize just how big the healthcare industry is and how much of that is all these different companies and businesses doing their part.
Right.
So, they made an effort after the problem was found. It's kind of like, well, the house burned down, so somebody put a fire extinguisher over there. and somebody else, it's not pretty, but the good news is in their settlement, they're going to get it done. And I hope the best for them and that they change their culture so that it truly worries about the privacy of the patients that they have, those 8,800 people. So, and if they're in the hospital, it's not like, oh, I had a cold. So anyway, you got anything to add on that one, David?
I mean, there is much more questions than answers when you go through this. I would love to know more about Sam T. Scammer and how he come about, and I'd love to know more about what ends up happening to First Choice, but we just don't know that yet.
Yeah, I want to know, why hadn't they done it before? Was it a decision, or did they actually, a lot of times they think they're doing what they're supposed to be doing because they have an MPP. Was it just they didn't actually make the effort because leadership didn't want it, or what? Why? Why would you not have anything done in 2014?
It could be one of those things where somebody's like, yeah, we're good. And then, somewhere along the way, they figure out they're not. And like, what do you mean? I thought we did this.
Yeah. IT takes care of it.
Yeah. I have had conversations where I, ask about HIPAA policies and procedures, and they're like, yeah, we got that. And then the office manager's like, no, we don't.
We don't have that.
And the doctor's like, what do you mean we don't have that?
Been trying to tell you that.
Yeah.
But see, that's why we tell people, anytime you have a discussion and decisions made not to do something about privacy and security, write it down.
Mm-hmm.
It's just as important that you're making decisions not to do something as it is making decisions to do something, and all should be documented. So that brings us to our Colorado case, or Colorado. I There's, always a debate about where to say, how you, it's one of those two. It's a square state or a rectangular state out west. This starts with a C. And it's really pretty. I've been there, but however, this case is Pagosa Springs Medical Center, which does not sound like a very big place, as you may guess. And they signed an agreement on December 11th, so they announced it anyway, 7 days after they announced the one we just talked about in Florida. And they agreed to pay $111,400.
That's an interesting number.
I know, yeah. It's like I checked myself 3 times. I'm like, where did that number come from? But, it gets your attention. You're like, okay, I can't just say 500K, or 111.4. Yeah, okay. Yeah. And a 2-year cap. Yep. And so here's the customary quote trying to bring home the lesson. It's common sense that former employees should immediately lose access to protected patient information upon their separation from employment. This case underscores the need for covered entities to always be aware of who has access to their EPHI and who doesn't.
Right.
So what's he saying, David?
So if I had to break that down for you, what Roger's saying is, you stupid. What are you doing? Why are you not taking these employees out of your systems when they're gone?
Yeah. I mean, everybody's like, well, we're too busy, or we thought it was done.
Yeah.
And this is why we tell people, you have to have a checklist for this. Well, but somebody does this. It's, I know. Share it. Mm-hmm. Make sure that all of those are done. This is why. This is exactly why.
Yeah.
And
we see this a lot when we're onboarding new employees for people. They have this checklist. It's funny. They have a checklist of all the things to give them access to, but rarely do they have a checklist of all the things to take away. It's like, where's your offboarding checklist for your employee? What? It should probably match your onboarding.
Yeah, they should be similar. One says on, one says off.
Yeah, they're just like, well, just take them out of the server. Okay, I can do that, but what else do they have access to? Because we don't control everything they have access to.
Yeah, IT takes care of it.
Exactly. It's like, oh, wait a minute, we give them locks, access to all the locks and the codes, and they're able to work from home and log into websites because we gave them the passwords, and just all this other stuff.
Yeah, there's a long list of ways that you could make offboarding easier. And the minute you start doing your checklist about offboarding, you will change your policies about how you give people access to things, because it is brutal, even for us. It drives me crazy if we want to take somebody out of the system. So
yeah. So Roger says it's common sense, people.
Again, it's the people.
That's another way of saying it is no excuse for this.
I know there's not. And here's the thing is, another thing with them saying they're going to make examples out of people, this is what he said. He has clearly said he wants to make examples of people when he does these settlements. He's looking for, really bad behavior and saying, look, everybody, this is really bad behavior.
Yep.
And most people, the ones that'll sit there and say they don't tell me how to do this stuff, it's like it's every one of these settlements. And we've now had like 50 something of them. Mm-hmm. 55, I think now. And every one of them tells you something. They give you examples. This was what they did. This is what we saw wrong with it. This is what they're going to do to fix it. Simple enough. But apparently people don't get this, because this is last year they did the big Memorial Hospital in Florida, where the affiliated physician staff were not being disabled when they left the practices. And that's the one that the OCR lady calls the 5 o'clock somewhere case. Because people would just log in and take information every day. They're in Florida, kick back with a cocktail. But they got that, but this was different in two ways. Number one, it was an employee of the hospital themselves. It wasn't like an affiliated entity. But number two, the BA thing slips in here also, which, since the headlines didn't mention the BA, you don't catch it unless you read the details.
Right.
So here's the what had happened was moment. So a former employee continued to have remote access to their web-based scheduling calendar. Now, remember that.
Remote access.
Web-based scheduling calendar after they were no longer employed by the medical center. The breach involved 557 individuals. So where
just over 500.
they, clearly they did the number and went, oh crap. But the other folks said, well, we'll just say 400, at least 400, so that we can stay under there. They went, well, here's 557, so you got to give them that.
Somewhere between 400 and 8,800, somewhere.
It was 557 is a very unfortunate number. 501 would probably be the most unfortunate. No, 500, because it's 500 or more. That would be the most unfortunate number. But the ex-employee, they only apparently went into the calendar twice, July 8th and September 10th of 2013, but the damage was done, that's all it takes. Yeah. This is what people don't get. That was 2 times. 2.
Right. And you got to wonder, that's from July to September is a long period of time. So what made them say, hey, I wonder if I still have access to this calendar?
I know. Even one time was, and that's it. One person can cause these kind of problems.
Yep.
And well, you have to say that all the people that didn't make sure it was offboarded somehow could be involved. But still, it's that one person that does something that gets you in trouble.
And this, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Not really, but
go ahead.
This also points out what we say a lot, which is, technology is only as good as, how it's able to be implemented. When you have a process problem because you didn't do the process right, that's not going to save you. It's not a hacker in this case. You're not looking at some malicious hacker and all this other stuff that people spout off about so many times. This is this is an ex-employee, and this was something that could have been fixed. But technology, unless you're using something like Sphere, where it's grabbing what people are doing in your systems, technology is not going to solve these problems. It's a process issue.
Yep. Tech is tech. It can only do so much because people are people.
Yeah.
People are crazy. How many times, you look at them and where did that become a good idea?
Yeah. Yeah. But you have to address, the 3 things that you need to address in your organization is you have to address the people, the processes, and the technology. And if you miss any of those, then you have a hole.
Yeah. Yeah. It forms a pyramid. And without, one of those corners, it will topple over or be incomplete, no matter how you look at it.
Mm-hmm.
And you need a pyramid.
All right. Can't have a rhombus. You have to have a pyramid.
Dodecahedron. That's my favorite one. But anyway, here's the other piece that they threw in. Remember where we said the web-based scheduling calendar vendor did not have a BAA?
Yeah.
Yeah. The web-based scheduling calendar vendor was
Google. I love Google Calendar. I use it all the time.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing is, the thing is Monk would say, the same thing happened way back, or a very similar thing in 2012. So they're doing this in 2013, even though there was an announcement in 2012 where Phoenix Cardio was like the first big settlement by an independent practice.
Mm-hmm.
They paid $100,000 back then and a 1-year cap. I would love to go ask them how's their program now. Because they were using the Google Calendar for surgery scheduling, and it was public. Uh-huh.
So, there again, having a BAA in and of itself still has to be configured properly.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. I don't think Google signed BAAs back then.
When was it again?
2013.
2013? Not sure.
Yeah. And who knows if it was actually like, at that time it was Google for Work account where they would sign them, or was it somebody just setting up a Gmail account?
Yeah, because just your free Gmail account doesn't, well, it doesn't
You're
get
not going to
covered.
get a BAA for that one ever.
Right.
So now it's G Suite, and you can get them.
Yeah.
But, make sure the people that have access are the right ones, and it's not public.
Yeah. And if you do use G Suite, there is a G Suite HIPAA implementation guide that they publish. So good idea. Take a look at that.
Yeah. We give our clients, when we discover they're using G Suite, we say, have you followed this, or at least made sure you've done all this? Really? They have one of those? Yes, they do. And so this one has a 2-year cap. So basically theirs, same kind of concept. They had more things in place. They were a medical center. And this is the other thing that gets me. Everybody says, well, they're the medical center. They're going to be better at it than we are. No, that doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that at all.
Nope.
But when I was reading this cap, you see a lot of the normal stuff, the risk analysis, and you got the 30-day and the 60-day and blah, 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 blah. All of those really intense things that we've talked about multiple times. But this one had some very specific things on the policies and procedures relating to business associates and how you manage them. And I was thrilled to now have this to point to as, here's why I tell you this, because I get so much pushback when we tell people to do these things. And here are 6 items that you should have in your business associate policies and procedures. And you actually should have a separate set of policies and procedures for dealing with business associates.
So those of you waiting for guidance, here you go.
Here you go. Number 1, designate one or more individuals who are responsible for ensuring that you enter into business associate agreements when you need to.
Yep.
So prior to disclosing PHI to the business associate, you should be in the agreement.
Yeah.
Prior.
Well, you do the same thing we do, is we like to discuss the BAA before we even start discussing the contract of anything else, because if we can't get past that, there's no need to talk business.
Exactly, which is what this also says. So that's number 1, is you make sure somebody's designated to get this done, and it has to be done before they get PHI. Number 2, and that's why we just put our BAAs in with our contracts now. It's like, here it is. We may not even touch your PHI, but we may need to. So we go ahead and put that in there. Number 2, create a process for assessing current and future business relationships to determine whether each relationship is with a business associate. Hello, you remember that whole thing we give you in HIPAA boot camp? For those of you who've been to boot camp, there you go. We gave you a process. Just update it, use it, whatever you need to do, but that's what that is. And that number 1 and number 2 are included in our workflow for managing business associates. It's right there.
Yep.
Then comes number 3, which is also included in there. I'm saying, create a process for negotiating and entering into business associate agreements with business associates prior to disclosing PHI to the business associate. Whew.
Yeah.
That's a lot of business associating. But that's exactly what you said, I mean, what? I don't know why people give me pushback when I say that they have to do that.
Yeah, I don't either.
And you're right. I mean, we just say, look, whose BAA do you want to sign? Let's do this now.
Oh, I went through a big song and dance with a company the other week, about they were handing me a templated BAA. And I was like, I'm not signing this. And it was like, well, our server's down. I'm like, I'm not signing your BAA. Therefore, I'm not working on your server. There's some really wrong things with your template that you're getting from your guy that I'm not willing to sign.
Yeah, we have a guy that handles this for us.
Yeah. So, it was funny, short story of the long, which was, they signed ours because once I spoke with the guy that, grabbed the template off the internet, he was like, well, I didn't see anything wrong with what we had. And I said, did you review it? And he goes, well, isn't it vetted already? And I'm like, okay, we're not signing yours. That's in a story. So the doctor's like, I don't give a crap what we sign. I need my server up and running. So we'll just sign mine then and quit arguing with me.
That's right. I'm not signing this crap. And people sign away their lives and their firstborn child and those things, and they don't even know it.
Yeah. Well, even some of the stuff in there wasn't even the best interest of the doctor.
Yeah.
It's like, anyway.
Yeah. They don't know what's in them. Which is number 4, create a standard template business associate agreement.
Right. You create a standard template, not buy a standard template. And basically what that means is you should have a templated business associate agreement, and then you can decide on a per business associate basis whether or not some of that stuff needs to be modified. Because some of it you can't modify. Some of it you have to have in there, and it has to be that way. And then other things you can talk about.
Yeah. You can negotiate, as
right.
they say.
The thing is that many people don't know what you can negotiate and what you can't out of the agreement. That's why we spend a lot of time on it in the boot camp.
Yeah. We have a whole session just on what to look for in business associate agreements because they get screwed up so much.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a business associate, you need to have 3 different templates, not just one.
Mm-hmm.
Covered entities can probably just have one.
Right.
And, there's a chance they might have to have a second one, but business associates need 3. They need an upstream one to a covered entity, an upstream one to a business associate, and a downstream one to a business associate.
Yep.
So I'm just saying, this is with a covered entity. One would probably be okay. So that's number 4. Number 5, create a process for maintaining documentation of each business associate agreement for at least 6 years beyond the date when the relationship is terminated.
Oh, not started, terminated.
Exactly. So you need that history for 6 years after you stop doing business with them.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've been doing business with them for 10 years, you still need all that too.
Yeah. And I would
don't get rid of that.
And I would suggest too, if you change your documentation for any reason, that you don't get rid of the old documentation.
No. You don't just overwrite what you have. You archive. And then, number 6, create a process to limit disclosures of PHI to business associates to the minimum necessary amount.
Yeah.
If they're there to do one thing, you don't give them access. You don't just give them a login with open access to the EHR.
To take from Roger Severino, common sense.
Common sense. That's right. And I'll tell you, this one, I was reading this one and I sat up tall in my chair. I felt so vindicated. I felt so vindicated. I'm like, yeah, that's what I said. All right. So those are the lessons I got out of it. If you've got more lessons, feel free to let us know what we've missed.
Yeah.
The lesson is, show that you're trying. In both of these cases, they really couldn't have been trying that hard if they're doing scheduling on Google Calendar. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
In 2013. Maybe today. But in 2013, I don't think so.
Yeah. I'm not sure when they started that, but but they definitely sign them these days. So if you don't have one, you might want to get one. But these settlements are, to me, they're even better than guidance a lot of times because it doesn't just say, hey, do this. It says this is what happens when you don't.
And here's an example of what's wrong.
Yeah. And here's some numbers if you want to look at how much this might cost you if you don't do these things.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much there.
Yeah. So, I mean, these things are great, but yeah. I mean, anytime somebody that, says, well, they don't ever tell us what to expect and, we just don't know what to do and this is all smoke and mirrors and whatever.
You just ask them what topic it is they're having a hard time getting guidance on.
Yeah.
And then you can find something appropriate that says this. And then I've even had people say, well, that still means I have to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That happens with the tax law, driving laws. I don't care. It happens with all of them. But we're going to tell you where the barriers are, and you figure out how you fit in there.
Yeah. And this is why we always cringe when we hear people say or post on their website, HIPAA made easy. This stuff is complex, and it changes from one CE or BA to another, and there's all type of little minutia things. It's just all over the place. It is not easy to do.
Minutia.
I said, yeah, I didn't say minutia.
Yeah, you said it very well. You almost didn't.
And also nuances.
Yeah, there you go. You get $2 words in one.
I know. All right, well, coffee's kicking in.
Okay.
Just in time to end it.
There you go.
All right, so that's our show for today, folks. Please remember to follow us and share us out on your favorite social media site. Rate us on our podcasting app. We need your help to spread the word, so get it out there. As always, you can send your questions and ideas to contact@helpmewithhipaa.com. We'll be sure to read it, and sometimes we even reply. So for Donna and myself, remember, HIPAA is not about compliance. It's about patient care.
You've been listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, hosted by Donna Grindle and David Sims. The show created to help you with HIPAA. For more information or to ask us a question, visit our website at helpmewithhipaa.com. Neither Donna Grindle or David Sims are attorneys, and they do not offer binding legal advice concerning regulatory compliance. The information in this podcast should not be relied upon or construed as legal advice in any way. Consult your attorney for legal advice concerning compliance with HIPAA regulations.